I love, you answered it every single way that is correct. Okay, so you said number 3?
Yeah.
So which one should they use? Well, I think if I do just 2 quick versions, one of them would probably look like this, and then one of them would look like this, right? So which one should they use? Well, if you are advertising in social media or even old school newspapers or magazines, I would say if this is your company here, or this is your company here, I would definitely use this one because this catches the eye. But if you are going to publish something that is in a higher educational type of publication, you want this one. Like if you have statisticians looking at it, you want to use the one that is the true one. I mean, they're both true. It's just one is misleading. One is trying to capture your eye to make you realize it's good. So you could that kind of question could argue either way. And I want you to realize that, and I think that's important that you know that both answers are correct, as long as you were able to justify why you particularly use one answer. Okay, if you hired an advertising firm, you're gonna hire an advertising firm that's gonna make your company look the best. Okay, because reality, there's probably a smaller percent of people who understand how a bar graph works than there are that would. And then the ones that do would just go on next door neighbor app saying, "Did you see the article in the paper? Oh my gosh, this is horrible." And then you get the guy next door going, "I hate you. Pull your weeds." And I don't know if you've ever been on that next door neighbor app. It's your parents are probably on it. But the one that cracks me up is I live right by Littleton Hospital, which is a trauma center 1. So you get the worst of the worst. So Flight for Life will fly over my house to take a patient either there or take them elsewhere. As soon as a helicopter flies over our house, hey, a helicopter flew over our house, what's going on in Littleton? And I don't even have to respond because like 8 people's like, dude, you live next to a trauma 1 medical center. Helicopters fly there. It's like, don't worry, we're not under attack. But I don't know, kind of crazy. So goes both ways. Was there any other questions on any of those that, and if you can use your notes on a test or quiz, you can also use your homework on a test or quiz, right? So you can utilize it as notes. I'm sorry that the homework is so much further later than the start. What is up, Buttercup?
Yeah, it's a little bit early for that.
I know.
Yeah. And was the homework
Chris, aren't you happy to survive?
prima donna? PD? PD?
Next year, I won't survive a month.
That's, she didn't catch my PD joke. For prima donna. All right. Anything else that we can go over? Obviously on number 95, a couple things that stick out as bad things. Yes, you can indeed do it as horizontal, but it is pretty bad to have 2 different types of categories that you're representing on one graph. There should be 2 different graphs. It takes so much room. I deal with it. Doesn't. Other things that stand out. Yeah, one is the percent and one is in millions. Oh, percents versus a count is also misleading. Okay, so let's say you had a country of 4.5 million people, and 90% of those, 90% of 4.5 million is a pretty big number. But if you had a country of say 300, and you said 90%. Yeah, though the percents are the same, you're talking about a much smaller number. So sometimes your eye goes to where the big differences would be when there might not be a difference at all, but they're just basing it on percents versus a whole number. So just be cautious on that. Anything else? Going once?
Over the second graph on the second.
Second graph on the second page. Is that the one that kind of looks like people?
Yeah.
Okay, so things that stand out on that, don't use pictures. Use an actual rectangle. Okay, so that's the main thing that sticks out to me. The other thing that sticks out is they all appear to be 4 in width, so the width seems to be okay, but the people thing is kind of a bad look at it, and you really shouldn't try and connect the dots. You shouldn't really even have a dot. You know, if you're representing so connecting the dots might be bad. Yeah.
I also noticed, like, if they were connecting dots, like the dots aren't exactly like even. They're kind of like in different places.
That's I like that. That's a good observation too. Good job. All right. We ready for notes? Now the big question is, will you be ready for your quiz come Wednesday?
Tomorrow?
No, Thursday. I'm sorry. I'm
I don't know.
I'm speeding up life. I'll record it for you. Just watch the recording at home.
Oh, okay.
That way you don't even miss a class. The jokes are the same.
What?
The jokes are the same.
What joke?
Yeah. There's no jokes. All right, so we are going to be doing 1.3 today. So I am flipping the book back. And are y'all been able to pick up the book so far? Because I think this might be the last day that the packet worked. If not, there'll be some time to run down a little bit to go get it. 1-3. Histograms. Yay, histograms.
Wait, which page is this?
Page 6. Page 6. Page numbers are at the bottom of the page. And we're jumping into histograms. Histograms. Okay. Now, just taking a quick look at that histogram, it looks very much like a bar chart. Agree?
Yes, except for touching.
They are touching. Good. Now, other things that a histogram does is it doesn't have a label. So like on the bar chart, the one we did yesterday, you had a country and a country and a country with barrels of oil. But notice on the histogram, it has like a range of numbers. Okay? So on a histogram, you don't necessarily know exactly what all the data would be. You might know what the median or the middle of the data is, but you might not know what the actual data points would be. So what a histogram would do, a quick, easy histogram. So, you know, one thing is this needs to start at 0 and 0. Okay. This has to have some sort of title. Okay. And count up by numbers. And it doesn't really matter if you can't. Oh my gosh, look what happened. Yay. My smart notebook. It's only this class that seems to pick on. Maybe it's because I'm recording, because it's like, it's doing too many things at once. So you count up by numbers. Now, it doesn't matter if you count up like 2, 4, 6, 8 or 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, 10, 15, 20. It matters that it counts up at the same rate. So some might have done this. You might have seen this in a science class. They do that where they start this at like 500 and then it's like 600. Yay. Best day ever. Did it again. I don't know why he hates me today, but it does. Hated me yesterday. So if you do the little squiggly line, and a lot of times squiggly lines they do in like chemistry class and stuff like that, usually it's based on a logarithmic curve with your data, but it's not really a good thing to do. So please be aware and call your science teacher out saying, Stirp said not to, and they're like, Stirp's not right. And it's like, well, he does teach statistics. So, you know, play that and see if you can get into a little argument. So make sure that if these all count up normal or evenly, even distances. Don't count up from, don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30, 40 after that or something like that. Keeps going. Histograms are attached. So these are attached to each other. So attached. That's a big thing to do. And then these numbers are a range. So you number these as a range. So you might go, this is for the data from, say, 0 to 5, and this is from up to 6 to 10, and this is from 11 to 15, etc. Okay, and you're basically counting the amount of data that goes into there. So on this, you might have had, if your data was like 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, all would fit in this area, and that would be how high it would be. So you'd have to count up your numbers. Now, let's get our phones out and let's open Desmos. Okay, now my friends, you're not going to be a pro at Desmos. Okay, you're not going to be a pro at Desmos. You're going to forget how to do certain things on Desmos. Agree? So during a test or quiz, or even during homework, if you can't remember how to do something on Desmos, ask me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up some land of make-believe data. But let's say come on, open. There we go. Let's go to Desmos. Okay.
Make it Friday again.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is Friday part 1. So on Desmos, you can use this on your computer, your laptops, or on your phone. Okay. So if you wanted to plug in data, let's say I am in a meeting and I want to do a comparison of scores on my kids in my Algebra 1 classes. And let's say they took a quiz and the score was out of 20 points. So what I could do is you hit the plus button and you get to the table. Okay? But let's say I'm just going to make some scores. And you don't have to worry about the scores, just take a look at what I'm doing. I'm just plugging in data. Okay? So now, what I can do is once you plug in whatever your data is, and a histogram would only be, you're just using the X values, you don't have to worry about the Y values. So if you type in histogram, parentheses, and it says set bandwidth, let's set the bandwidth to 3. And let's do, I think it's X of 1 that we do. And then, oops, what did I do wrong? Ooh, I got to look this up real quick. Histogram. Where is histogram? There's emails. All right.
Wait, how do you get to a histogram mode?
Hit the plus. You hit the plus and do the table. YouTube. I got to remember this because I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Because I'm winging it as we go right now. So let's jump to YouTube. And let's do a quick search. Desmos, histogram. All right, histograms on Desmos, 2 minutes, 28 seconds. Let's see what it says. All right, we have an ad. Yay, best day ever. 4, 3, 2, 1, skip. Skip ad. Skip ad. All right, so let's make sure we did this right. And again, this is being as you have your phones. If you forget something too, jump on, take a look. I know we can't hear it. Let's just go closed caption and see what they say. We're still playing? Yes, we're still playing. Sports Center. Oh, that's what it is. L. Ah, there we go. That's where I made a mistake. All right. That's what I forgot to do. I'm sorry. Okay. So let's go back to Desmos. Clear that. Let's clear this. Let's go undo the plus, take it back to expression. Clear that, don't want that. Clear. Okay, so I'm gonna title, so I'll call it list equals square bracket, and then separate by commas. So if you just had some lists that you did, close the bracket, square bracket. So I have 19 elements. So you title it L equals square bracket if you plug in your data, however it's going to be. And then histogram, if you spell it right. Set bandwidth. Set the bandwidth to say 3 for L. I think that's it. Nope, gotta go back to YouTube, make sure I can do it right. All right, keep going. So histogram. There's our data, 6 elements, come on. Go to the next one. So they're just typing in some data. Come on, baby. I just need to see the next line. Yes, you're plugging in data, I'm proud of you. Close square bracket, we did that. L equals 22. Keep playing. And then we're going to type in histogram. Okay, we got that. Parentheses, set bandwidth L. Okay, there we go. Let's pause that. So histogram L, no, parentheses L. There we go. All right, so right now this is the bandwidth set at 2. We can change the bandwidth to 2. We can change the bandwidth to 3. You can move your graph around. So the histogram works pretty nicely. I mean, these are all the exact same histogram. I mean, notice that's 2 boxes of a histogram. Well, let's go back to 2. Okay, that shows us some pretty good data. Okay, if I have my columns only 2 apart. So you have to play around with this to figure it out. So histogram, open parentheses, whatever you titled your list, and then comma, whatever your bandwidth. I mean, you could even make this like 0.5. So that's what our histogram looks like that. And now you're going to say, well, it doesn't look like it's connected. Well, it's kind of, histogram gets a little playful. Okay, that's all connected. So I made it as 0.9. Okay, 1.2. Oops. 1.2. Okay, so you can just change around what your histogram looks like. You want your histogram to have a certain amount of things. If you went and just said, hey, I want my bandwidth to be 20, okay, this is a really bad representation of the histogram. Okay, it is our same data that we're looking at, but I mean, you just have 2 rectangles. It's like, well, so what? Okay, I mean, it's one thing if you're comparing 2 items to do that, but we're comparing multiple things. Yeah.
What am I doing wrong here?
You have your list. Oh, you made it 13. Change that. Change that 13 to like 2. Right down here. Let's see. Histogram. Got it. 13 elements. Oh, that needs to be a capital L.
Well, yeah, I tried that.
Histogram L2. Oh, capital H for your histogram. Make it a lowercase h. No. There you go. And the nice thing is, yeah. Now, like it. And we'll comma, say 2. There it is. Yeah, you've got to go. You got histogram. So that's just one of the ways that you're able to do it and play around with it. What's the right way? I'd say your histogram looks like that. You missed the mark a little bit. Okay? If your histogram looks something like that, and you can zoom in on it, that looks pretty appropriate. Okay? So just kind of note about that. Now, it's not necessarily going to be on the homework to do it, but you could try and play around with it. So, I mean, we have all year to learn how Desmos will work, and you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, this is pretty fluid. The phones aren't always as good. Well, they're not always good for this guy because I haven't figured out technology yet. But you guys, I've seen you guys type your stuff on your phones, and it's fast. So you seem to do well. All right. So on our particular thing, let's say those were all the scores for students. And what you can also do is you can kind of, I think you can click the graph and it should tell you the median. No. You can align it left, center, relativity. I mean, there's all kinds of different buttons you can play around with. But basically, you want your histogram to have at least 5 columns, maybe more, to make it to be a legitimate thing to look at. Did it still work? Oh, I thought you were coming to me again. All right. So the width of the bars should be identical. Okay, that's the same as a bar graph. The vertical axis should begin with 0. The area of each bar must represent the proportion in the raw count. That means all the bars need to be the same width, but if you found the area of each, that should be the proportion of what percentage of things fell within that range. Let's see, the bars should touch. Okay, we got that. And question may arise at this point. How many bars should a histogram have? Okay, again, in statistics, there's not a real easy answer, but I would say about 5 would be perfect, as a general start. But if you had a whole bunch of data you were plugging in, I mean, we plugged in 19 things on my example, which is not a ton, but let's say I was putting in like 500 pieces of data, maybe have more than 5 bars, maybe have 10 bars or 8 bars or whatever like that. But just don't have 1 or 2 or 3. Have more than 5, it should be fine. So, and they're saying in our book on page 7, they want between 5 and 10 bars. I think that's appropriate. If you go beyond that, people just don't know what they're really seeing with the counts that you're doing. And then in which bar do the observations exist? Well, if I go back to my board and I had this data, and I made a histogram. So from 2 to 11, if I wanted to make that into 5 bars, I'd probably go 2, 4, 6. Come on, 6. Think about this. 6. Ah, yay, best day ever. Oh my gosh. Get out of here. Go back in. If I had made my data and I had data I was plugging in, as soon as this catches up with us, come on, baby. You were working so well. Come on. Close. So if I counted this out, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, then I would just say, okay, over here I'm going to count up by 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, is there anything up to 2? I'd say I have one value at 2, so that's used. And then 7, 8. I have a single 4. So this would be like this. Takes care of the 4. I have 7, 8, 8. 7, 8, 8. There's 3 pieces of data there. And then I have a 10. So this is basically my histogram of that data that'd be there. Okay. And I know it doesn't show us a whole lot because I did limited data. Okay. Misleading graphs. You might get the feeling that we occasionally be highlighting examples of misunderstanding graphs, distortions that are common in the real world. In general, human beings are not very good at this. So this is a misleading graph. If I went from 0 to 10, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of data in there, this would be the histogram based on just our data with 1 bar. That's misleading. Okay? There's not enough to look at. You're like, great, I got a rectangle, yay. With any data display, use of statistics, it's a good idea to study the display closely, make sure there's labels. Okay, so this would be test scores maybe down here. And this would be the number of scores. Yeah.
I don't get like what these numbers are like representing though.
That's how many things, how many pieces of the data that you plugged in fit into each rectangle. So if you went to the top of each thing, if you kind of zoomed in,
Yeah.
you could say, okay, look, there's 2 pieces of data here.
For
There's,
2.
yeah.
For number 2.
yeah, for the 1 in the 4 range, you have 3 pieces of data. You have 1 piece of data here. You have 3 pieces of data here. You have 2 pieces of data here. You have 1 piece of data here. You have 1 there.
Okay.
So it means like 1 test score would fall into each of those categories. So that's what you're using your y-axis.
Okay, 114.
Yeah. All right. So tomorrow we'll work a little bit more with histograms, but our assignment that I'll give you the opportunity to work on, we are on 1-3. So let's have you work on page, ooh, all right. This is going to be page, what did I do this? Page 97, 98.
Moving all over.
Page 99, 97, 98. So that'll be what your assignment is. Cool. And